up, and our friends at Caesars Sportsbook like Tampa's odds to win it back-to-back. They're currently 8-1 to repeat, which are the second best odds in the league. Only Kansas City is shorter at 5-1. And so let me go live to Tampa. It's been a long time since we've seen Jenna Lane, who covers the Bucs for us. Good morning, Jenna. And what do we know about the way Bruce Arians is looking to motivate this team to try and do something that no team has done in a generation, and that is win back-to-back Super Bowls?
Greeny, I spoke to Bucs coach Bruce Arians this morning, and he told me his message to the team is going to be new team, new journey. Last year means nothing. And that echoes something that Tom Brady told me a few months ago when I had a chance to sit down with him. He said, nobody cares what you did last year. So between the two of those guys, they're not going to have to search very far for motivation. And then I talked to members of the team, and they told me, look, we were able to accomplish so much with so many new pieces without having an off season. They are really excited about the chance to come together and finally have some semblance of an off season, being able to practice together, hopefully at team facilities. We still don't know for sure because of COVID-19. But then I also go back to Brady. Remember, this is a guy that called his quarterbacks coach, Clyde Christensen, the day after the Super Bowl, the day after they won it. He only had a few hours of sleep, and he's like, I want to talk about next year. He was already focused on number 8.
So that's the point, is that there's every reason to think this team should be better, and the biggest obstacle tends to be the complacency that sets in. And so we've been talking about this here a little bit. We had Teddy Bruschi on talking about it and others. As you know this team, as well as anybody does being there, will the job of keeping that complacency away, is that going to fall on Brady or is it going to fall on Arians?
I think it's going to fall on the leadership altogether, and I'm going to look at Bruce Arians for that. And of course, he was known as the mask police around the facility this past year. That's why their COVID numbers were so down, because he was patrolling the facility telling guys, hey, lift up your mask, put on your mask. So between him, between Brady, but then also you got to look on the defensive side of the ball at a guy like Levante David. In all the years that he's played, 9 seasons now, he had just 2 winning seasons. I don't think you really have to worry about complacency when you have guys that have been around for so long and that have had to deal with that much losing.
It's interesting because while this hasn't happened in a long time, it used to happen somewhat regularly. Now, that was a pre-free agency time. But Graziano is a skeptic. So here's Jenna Lane telling us what I've been saying all along to you, Graziano. The Buccaneers, there's every reason to think they're going to be better next year, not worse. And yet you're going to tell us that any team in the league, any team in the sport can win but them.
Right. They might be better, but winning again is basically impossible. There's a reason it doesn't happen. There's many reasons it doesn't happen. Something always shows up to derail it. Just ask the Kansas City Chiefs, who look like a sure bet to win the whole thing again until the very last game. So look, I think when you look at Tampa Bay, this is why they brought Tom Brady in there, right? To elevate them from good team to championship team. So he will be the factor that keeps them on track, because he's been through this before and he knows what it's all about. So that gives them a chance. But man, if they repeat, that would be a stunner.
Mike T, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Tom Brady and Todd Bowles are great force multipliers. They're going to hold people accountable in their style, and Bruce Arians' style works for him. So despite what Dan's saying about the history and the statistics, they have the right confluence of personalities to make this work. And imagine what a full offseason is going to be like with the greatest quarterback of all time. If anyone can do it, it's them.
I'm with you. Jenna Lane, we will be checking in with you regularly as we work through this offseason, and we are going to prove Graziano's skepticism to be just what it is. Cynicism, I tell you, that's all it is. Jenna Lane, thank you very much. Our next stop is Pittsburgh, which is a team maybe on the opposite end of this spectrum. Most notable for the Steelers this offseason, they restructure the contract of their aging quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger. They save some space. They bring back Juju Smith-Schuster on a 1-year deal. Yesterday, the owner of the team, Art Rooney, was talking about his confidence in his veteran quarterback.
I thought Ben had a very good year last year for somebody that was coming off arm surgery, and I think hopefully he'll have an even better year this year, with another year under his belt in terms of recovering from that arm surgery.
All right, Brooke Pryor covers the Steelers for us at ESPN, and she gets up with us early this morning. Brooke, so we've had a lot of sort of mixed reviews on the Steelers' decisions on our show here. They bring back Roethlisberger. He's 39 years old. We hear what the owner is saying. What kind of team do they believe they are building for this season?
Right, Greeny. Well, when we talked to Art Rooney II back in January, he said, we're trying to build a championship team this offseason, but their moves kind of suggest otherwise at this point, at least through free agency. Look, they were never going to have the cap space to be able to bring a guy back like Bud Dupree, but what about Mike Hilton? What about Tyson Alualu? Why let starting cornerback Steven Nelson walk when he was still under contract? This is a team that now has some significant holes to fill in the draft, and instead they spent the little draft capital they had, or the little cap space that they had, on Juju Smith-Schuster to kind of keep the band together while letting some of the backup singers exit, the guys that let Ben Roethlisberger look so good. So now they have to draft. They have to draft to try to win, and it's one thing to draft to fill a few holes, like adding a Clyde Edwards-Helaire or an Antoine Winfield. Instead, they're going to have to try to add a quarterback and some other pieces, specifically a quarterback for the future, while still trying to win now. And like Mike Tannenbaum said earlier this week, maybe they draft a quarterback and he's the Patrick Mahomes to Ben Roethlisberger's Alex Smith, but this is the same guy that in 2018, when asked how he could help Mason Rudolph, said, well, maybe I'll just point him to the playbook. So I don't know that they're going to be able to find a way to get a new quarterback into the system for the future while still trying to win now. They're headed toward an identity crisis.
Well, I think that's a very realistic way of approaching the situation and looking at where they are. And so, Mike T., I will come to you. They're trying to do something that is very hard to do. They're trying to win now and look to the future. They can't draft a quarterback, at least not any of the ones that we're talking about at the top of this draft. They weren't nearly bad enough for that. This is a team that was 11-0 at one point. So it's one thing to say we want to get our quarterback of the future, but Mike T., if you're sitting where they're sitting, how do you actually do that?
Yeah, I really agree with what Brooke's saying. It's very difficult. They're going to have to go up and be aggressive. Again, there's teams even at 11 and 12 that we believe, like the San Franciscos of the world, may have to move up. So from where they are, they're going to have to really consider a future first-round pick, Green, to go up. And to Brooke's point, once you do that, give a one this year and next year, you still have questions at left tackle, center, and running back, and an aging Ben Roethlisberger. So the dynamic here, to me, is a very challenging one for the Steelers.
Graz, what is your sense of the plan there in Pittsburgh?
I think they're really struggling, Greeny. My understanding is that Pittsburgh has been a little bit surprised by just how difficult their cap situation has turned out to be in terms of their ability to retain players like the ones that Brooke is listing. And look, if this team didn't have Mike Tomlin as its head coach, I would say, oh, they're in trouble. They're a last-place team. They're going to be awful. He's never had a losing season. We give him the benefit of the doubt. But there's going to be a ton of pressure on him and on Ben Roethlisberger and on anyone they draft in any kind of early round to be an early producer if this is going to be a contending team in what looks like a very difficult AFC North division.
That's another point, is that every team in the Browns are probably better than them. The Ravens and the Bengals seem to be getting better. So, Brooke, a final word here on that. In Mike, we trust. The whole world will sort of look at Tomlin and say he'll figure it out, but there's a lot here to figure out.
Right, exactly. And it's not just in Mike Tomlin we trust. Maybe the team should also trust in Mike Sullivan and Matt Canada to help develop a new young quarterback. Maybe Ben Roethlisberger isn't the guy to mentor a draft pick this year, but they did hire quarterbacks coach, and Matt Canada was instrumental in the development of Mason Rudolph this offseason. So it's not impossible, but it's going to be tough.
We'll see. That's one of the most interesting teams to watch. Brooke Pryor, outstanding. Thank you for getting up with us. We're just getting rolling. So